أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعماءه العادون ولا يعدي حقه المجتهدون. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. لقد جاءت رسل ربنا بالحق. الصلاة والسلام على الرسول المسدد والمصطفى الأمجد أبي القاسم محمد وبآله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. على محمد أما بعد فقد قال الله إمام الحسين: إنما خرجت لطلب إصلاح في أمة جدي رسول الله صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. Once again, I begin in the Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I begin in the name of Allah, the Beneficent and the Merciful, the one who gives us the existence, the one who brings us into being from nothing, and the one who gives us the strength and the intellect and takes us to our destination. On that note, I humbly say, Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is one of those famous quotes from Imam Hussain alayhi salam. As we are passing through the month of sorrow and grief, Muharram and Safar, so I thought it pertinent to speak about the historical aspect and the stance of Imam Hussain against Yazid, in which eventually the tragedy of Karbala transpired. Imam Hussain said, إنما خرجت لطلب إصلاح في أمة جدي, means that I am making a move, I am taking a stance against the leader of this time, Yazid, to awaken the sleeping and the slumbering conscience of the Muslim Ummah. So you see, the situation was so bad that Imam Hussain had to take this step that transpired into one of those mega tragedies that is unparalleled in history till today. Now, as we say, Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Remembering history is not a bundle of events. Remembering history which has gone by is never dead. History is never dead. And when we talk about the tragedy of Karbala, whenever we talk about tragedy of Karbala, especially when we pass through these months of grief, Muharram and Safar, it is as if the tragedy has just transpired yesterday. This is a mu'jiza of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the light of the sacrifice that Imam Hussain gave out. Now, I would want to just summarize this evening or tonight for a few minutes to trace the events of the history of Islam, which brings us to the events of Karbala, which is very interesting in a way. Islam, there was a period of Islamic history on the opposition side, the time of the Prophet, which was led by Banu Umayyah. Banu Umayyah, the most brutal of all the tribes. People like Atba bin Rabi', the great grandfather of Yazid, and after him, even after the hijrah of the Prophet, when Prophet immigrated from Mecca to Medina, the leadership of the opposition went on to Abu Sufyan, the grandfather of Yazid, Abu Sufyan, and the father of Muawiyah. And then we see that 2 years before the death of the Prophet, the kuffar, the unbelievers of Mecca, lost their power. the Muslims conquered Mecca, they were able to bring them under their control. And Abu Sufyan reluctantly, very, very reluctantly, it's a very interesting period in history, that how he agreed to be a Muslim. It took him 3 days to recite Muhammadur Rasulullah. 3 days. When he was told that the only way out for your salvation or to be saved for you is to recite kalima. So he was ready to recite La ilaha illallah. But when he looked at the Prophet and he says, I cannot say Muhammadur Rasul. I want to think. And history says about he went away home after the conquering of Makkah. And Prophet gave him that time. When he came back, he very, very reluctantly said Muhammadur Rasulullah. And after that in history, we never find him saying Muhammadur Rasul. That's how staunch enemy, a sworn enemy of Islam that he was. Abu Sufyan. And today, the Muslims, what do they say? Ashra Mubashira, there are 10 names that the Muslims have. 10 names that these Prophet has, something like the Prophet has predicted, or Jannat is wajib on them. And one of them is Abu Sufyan. That's what the Muslims say. Allahu Akbar. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi. A sworn enemy of Islam. And they say that 10 people who are earmarked to enter Jannah, and number 10 is Abu Sufyan. And they are known as Ashra Mubashira. It's a very tragic part, the part of the Muslims. This is history. So the opposition goes to Abu Sufyan, the grandfather of Yazid bin Muawiyah, and then we see that just 2 years before the death of the Prophet, Kuffar of Makkah lost their power. Now what happens is they now come under they come into the fold of Islam. Because to save their skin now, they said, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. The Kuffar of Makkah, they had no choice. Even if they didn't want to. His wife, Hinda, she's the one who tore apart the body of Hamza, the uncle of the Prophet. People like her, people like Abu Sufyan, people like Muawiyah, now they all came under the fold of Islam. A year after the death of the Prophet now, the enemy basically now has changed the strategy. Instead of open opposition, now they are in the fold of Islam and they are working now from within. This is known as hypocrisy. Nifaq, what is nifaq? In Western countries, especially in England, Europe, here also, there is an animal called Mr. Mole. Mole, there's a mole. Mole stays underground. His burrow is under the ground. But this mole, to save itself or from the predators, he digs one hole from this side and one from the other. So if the predator comes from this side, can run away from that side. This is what is known as nifaq. Nafaq means you do not know the actual intention of the person or the actual intention of that entity from where he will or she will attack or that animal will attack. This is known as nifaq in Arabic. Now these people, all of them, they gathered under the fold of Islam and now they are working, conspiring with the rulers of that time and they gained control of Syria. After the Prophet, whoever came, the Khulafas, they conspired with the rulers and they gained control of Syria, which was a newly conquered territory, by the way, in the Muslim Empire. And during those days, especially the people of that land were completely new to Islam in Syria. And we see that 11 years after the death of the Prophet with the third Khalifa, the third Khalifa was basically from the tribe of Banu Umayyah. He was from the tribe. The entire Muslim world now comes into the hands of Banu Umayyah. They control the entire Muslim world. After 11 years. Now after 11 years of the rule of the third caliph, Muslims now insist, because there was so much of injustice at that time, that the Muslim literally forced Imam Ali to accept the rulership and the Khilafah at that time. That's how Imam Ali came to be the fourth Caliph. But his period's about almost 5 years, which was full of problems. I mean, one battle after the other. They did not give time to Amirul Mu'mineen, even for a second, to establish his rule properly. That's how this entity was into the fold of Islam. Battle of Jamal, for example, the battle of the camel. Sahaba, the wife of the Prophet against Imam Ali. Siffin, the battle of Nehrawan. And 5 months after the Shahadat of Imam Ali, as again the rule of the Muslim empire and the Muslim society totally goes into the hands of Banu Umayyah. With Muawiyah as the Caliph now. He is the Caliph and the ruler, and he ruled for 20 years as the Caliph, as Khalifatul Muslimin, the Caliph of the Muslims. But 22 years before that, he was the governor of Syria during the time of these three caliphs. So you can see the poison that he spread into Islam for 22 plus 20, 42 years. And how he gained control of Syria. And there were so many tricks that he played, the propaganda that he initiated, the propaganda machinery, intimidation. He controlled the entire Muslim world after Imam Hassan's peace treaty or Imam Hassan's death. And then he dies. When he dies, now comes Yazid, the rule of Yazid. And before of course, Banu Umayyah, the difference is that after coming, the difference between the rulers who came before Yazid and Yazid is that he was not a hypocrite. He openly flaunted the laws of Islam. So we cannot call him a hypocrite. He literally openly declared his kufr. The others, apparently, according to our observance and research, they hurt Islam under the guise of Islam. But this man who called himself Khalifatul Muslimin with the title of Amirul Mu'mineen, sitting on the successorship or leadership of Rasulullah, came out openly. He was not a hypocrite. He wasn't a hypocrite, but came out openly talking about the very against and destroying the very fundamentals of Islam. Speaking and preaching against it. Absolutely. And that is why we see Imam Hussain realize that now the time has come to lift the cover from the face of Banu Umayyah once and for all. He paid a very high price for it. It's a very unfortunate part of history. And to separate religion from politics, because religion had become a part of politics to such an extent that the ruler was considered to be the guardian of the religion. That is why Imam Hussain stood up. He says, the least I can do is separate religion from politics, from the rulership. That is how it, and if you have a person on the seat of Khalifatul Muslimin openly talking against the fundamentals of Islam, openly destroying Tawheed, openly destroying and talking against Nubuwah, and openly claiming his disbelief in Ma'ad and Qiyamah, that we not only see that the spirit of Islam which is lost, even the body and appearance of Islam was being destroyed. That's how bad it was. And at that time, this is the reason that why Imam Hussain ibn Ali decided to take this unique step of Shahada and martyrdom in order to make the issues very clear and awaken the slumbering and the sleeping conscience of the Muslim Ummah. There is quite a lot in history which we can discuss for days. Very interesting, very interesting. But we want to see what Yazid was doing. But I'll just read to you one or two parts of his poetry, and this is after the events. This is after the events of Karbala. It is enough to make us cry. When the family of the Prophet was in his court in front of him, where they were brought to him as captives in his court, the words that he uses, shows that now these enemies who had come from within and had put on a garb or the mask of Islam were coming out now from that mask. They were destroying that garb and mask of their own, exposing themselves very openly. Now here there is no curtain of hypocrisy as well. This is Yazid. And he was openly talking against Islam, against Tawheed, Nubuwwah, Risala. When Imam Hussain and his family is brought to him in the height of his arrogance and power and pride, in the court, there were 900 kursi nashin, as we say, 900 dignitaries in his court while he was on the throne, and the Prophet's family is being paraded in front of these people. And he's thinking that now no one can touch him. Yazid started reciting some poetries when he says, Layta ashyakhi bi badrin shahidu. Layta ashyakhi bi badrin shahidu. He says, I wish my ancestors who were killed by the Muslims in the first battle of Badr, referring to his great-grandfather, and the brother of his great-grandfather, and the brother of his grandmother. He is referring to those people who were killed by the Muslims who had come out to fight in the very first battle of Badr. And he says, I wish they would be alive today to see how I have taken revenge from the family of Ahmad. Doesn't even say Rasulullah. He says, the ancestors should come and see how I have taken the revenge from the family of Ahmad. This is a person sitting on the seat of Khilafah, on the successorship of the Prophet. He's sitting there, and now today he has the audacity to say that by killing Hussein and his family and taking the Prophet's ladies as captives, I am revenging and avenging the killing of my ancestors who were killed by the hands of the Muslims in the first battle of Badr. And referring to especially uncle of the Prophet Hamza and Ubaidah and Ali ibn Abi Talib. These were the heroes of the battle of Badr who had killed the leaders of Banu Umayyah at that time. And he says, if they were to see me today, they would congratulate me and they would be so proud of me, and they would say, ثُمَّ قَالُوا يَا يَزِيد لَا تَشَلْ. You know what that means? It means that they would say, oh Yazid, may your strength never disappear. He's talking about his ancestors. May your hands never be devoid of power and strength. And this is the time we see that the enemy now is not only talking about decency here, but at least that the political power has come into its hands. And now at least let us do the pretense of Islam, as his father did. There was no pretense there. He was talking openly against the tenets of Islam. No pretense of Islam, no garb of Islam, no observer of Islamic ethics or morality. That law is gone with Yazid. And I would say that at least he was not a hypocrite like the others. Because his father, we have a statement from his father in history, where he says, oh Yazid, one of my advice to you, Muawiyah before his death, he tells Yazid because he knows that he's nominated his son to rule after him. And he says to him, my advice to you is that in appearance, be careful. When you appear before people, be careful. Do not give excuses to people to criticize you and to attack you in any way. Be discreet. And he says, Muawiyah told him, wait for the night. Because night is actually the day of the clever and the devious people of the devil. Wait for the night. When night falls, do whatever you want to do. But during the daytime, ensure when people see you to be careful, wear the garb of Islam. So it was under these circumstances that Imam Hussain now realizes that all the methods of opposing Batil would not work except perfect the method of sacrifice and martyrdom. This is when Imam Hussain realized this shahadat, because this was a method by which he will be able to force the Muslim people to think of what is going on. And his statement, Imam Hussein's statement, that when he was asked to do bayat, the first day, when Yazid came to power and the letter comes from Sham, there were 3 prominent personalities in Medina. One of them was Imam Hussain. The rest were, we can say, the weakest links. But Imam Hussain was the strongest link. And when he was asked to pay allegiance to the hand of Yazid in the house of Walid, the governor in Medina, the answer he gave was very, very clear. It is very brief, comprehensive in a way, but very, very clear and full of meaning, pregnant with full of meaning. He says, I belong to the family of prophethood. Misli, he says, Misli, la yubayu mislu. You know, Misli, he could have said, Ana, la yubayu huwa. That me, I cannot pay allegiance to him. You know what is Misli? Misli means Imam Hussain is telling him that I represent not only my mother and my father, but I represent the Prophet. And when I represent the Prophet, he is Khatimul Anbiya. He is the leader of all the prophets. So at the same time, I represent 123,999 prophets. That is why he says, Misli, la yubayu mislu, because 124,000 prophets, if I pay allegiance, they all pay allegiance to you. Including my mother and my father, ain't happening. It's not going to happen. And this is the word that he used, Misli, la yubayu mislu. He says, my house is the house of Rasulullah, rahmatul lil alameen. Allah started all the good things in our house with us. And he perfected all the virtues in us. See, Misli, la yubayu mislu. Means I represent the forces of good. Means your Khalifa and the person who is sitting on that seat of throne, now he represents the army of the devil. Literally, it's good against evil. Misli la yubayu mislu. And then he says, Wahuwa rajulun fasiq. He tells Walid, the governor of Yazid. And he says, he is an open sinner. He is an evil person, rajulun fasiq. Sharibul khamr, who drinks and intoxicates himself till he falls down. Openly. Fasiq, sharibul khamr. And here are the basic symbols that Imam Hussain has presented, the qualities of Yazid, that symbol that he has no respect for Islam or the laws of Islam. And then he says, وَهُوَ قَاتِلُ النَّفْسِ الْمُحَرَّمَةِ. He is the murderer of innocent lives. This is the example that he has no respect for the rights of the people, no respect for the tenet of Islam, no respect for Islam at all, not even by mouth or a garb, nothing. وَمُعْلِنٌ بِالْفِسْقِ. Mu'linun bil fisq means that not only that he is a sinner, but he commits sins and he does it openly. Allahu Akbar. He commits openly. Mu'lin means doing it very openly with the title of Khalifatul Muslimin, Amirul Mu'mineen. When a person who openly commits sins, then you can realize the impact as what is going to happen to Islam and what is going to happen to the whole of the Muslim society and Muslim civilization and Muslim nation at that time. Because let's agree to one thing, that in a household, the effect of the father is always on the son. The son always picks up the habits or the effects of the father. And then when the same child goes to school, madrasa or hawza or college or university to a certain extent, the effects of the teacher and the professor will also be reflected upon that person. Now can you imagine a leader of a whole nation? What will be the effect on the whole Muslim nation? What will be the asarat of a leader who is openly flaunting the tenets of Islam. What will happen to that Muslim society and Muslim civilization? And that is why Imam Hussain decided that even if he loses his life, he is prepared to sacrifice everything in order to make sure that people realize that even if you have people with the title of Khalifatul Muslimin, this is a teaching for us, that even if they have the title of Khalifatul Muslimin or Amirul Mu'mineen, be vigilant enough. You should look at their character and conduct to see whether they are right or whether they are wrong, because people can never be the criteria of haqq and batil. People can never be judged on truth and evil, or haqq and batil, on right and wrong. No, haqq and batil is the criteria which can judge the people. First we have to know what is haqq, and then we have to know what is batil. We put people on haqq and we put people on batil and see whether that person is on haqq or he is on batil. This is how the personality of every human being is being judged, especially in the political status and structure. Otherwise it really doesn't matter. And this is the reason that Imam Hussain decided to take this step, which is unfortunately ended in such a tragedy. All the teachings, everything was forgotten, everything. The tragedy of Karbala transpires how many years? 50 years only, 50 after the death of the Prophet. Can you imagine in 50 years the Muslim nation forgot the teachings of? These are the people, and these are the same Muslims today who are trying to defend. We have people in the Muslim nation who are trying to defend Yazid as Amirul Mu'mineen. I was surprised myself in 2008 when we had gone for Hajj, walking in the street of Makkah. Have you seen that in an avenue? The whole avenue is named as Sha'ra Amirul Mu'mineen Yazid ibn Mu'abi. The street, an avenue named in and it is written literally in Arabic. Amirul Mu'mineen Yazid ibn Mu'awiyah, a whole street named in his. There's a street there. See the moral complacency of the Muslims today and Muslim Ummah. It's completely complacent. Abu Sufyan, given the bashara of entering Jannah, person like Abu Sufyan. Allahu Akbar. And we raise objection to sometimes Danish cartoons. Where are we? I mean, when we give a place of honor to those who broke all the standards of proper human behavior, people like Yazid and Banu Umayyah, and decency, as we would call it, there was no decency left. When this tragedy of Karbala transpires in the Muslim Ummah, there was no decency left, apart from this small group of people who were on just and the right path. Mentioning one personality on the day of Ashur, Muslim ibn Awsaja. I want to remember him tonight. The oldest of the companion of Imam Hussain. He was so old that he could not hold his eyes open, because his eyebrows and the eyelids, they had lost their muscle. He could not even open his eyes. That is how old he was. The skin was falling over his eyes on the day of Ashur. And at the time of Dhuhr, Muslim ibn Awsaja, he was from the tribe of... But look at the faithfulness. Those people who sacrificed themselves for Imam Hussain, our hats off to them. You cannot describe them enough. We cannot talk about them enough. He was from the tribe of Bani Asad. They say in history, we read about him, about Muslim ibn Awsaja, he was always smiling. More than he's later 80 plus, in the end of 80s. That's how old he was. The age is reported over 80s. Each member of the companions of Imam Hussain in Karbala who sacrificed their lives for Imam Hussain was a well-known figure. They were intellectuals who sacrificed. An excellent record. He was a master of the Quranic sciences, Muslim ibn Awsaja. Master of Ilmul Akhlaq in Islam. Every one of them was a paradigmatic case. Every person who sacrificed his life for Imam Hussain in the tragedy of Karbala, he was a paradigm. And Muslim ibn Awsaja, he was a paradigm. He got on his horse and he went after Dhuhr prayers. Or maybe before Dhuhr prayers. The history is not very clear. There were two people protecting Imam Hussain from the onslaught of the arrows that were coming in. That was Zuhair bin Kain and Sayyid al-Hanafi. They were protecting the Imam on the front side when he was praying from the rain of arrows, from the falls of arrows that were falling on the camp. Habib ibn Zahir was the one who was responding. When Salatul Dhuhr was made, the answer came that, oh Hussain, your prayers are not accepted. This is Umar ibn Sa'd. That your prayers are not accepted. And it was Habib who dared to stand and say that, who are you to decide on the Prophet's son's prayers? Who are you? And Muslim ibn Awsaja is on his horse and he fought Tabari, the historian. Tabari is not a Shia. He's a Sunni historian. But he has written a very historical, accurate and interesting account of the tragedy of Karbala. He writes that when Muslim ibn Awsaja fell from his horse and made his last salams, last salutation to the Imam, Habib ibn Mazahir accompanied Imam Hussain to his place where he had fallen. And each death and each martyrdom was for Imam Hussain a big event. Imam Hussain made sure that he reached each and every person who had fallen at that time. It was very hard on him. Tabari tells us, very sad part, that by Dhuhr, Imam Hussein's face was looking very tired and sad. Very tired and very sad. He was looking very sad. And Muslim ibn Awsaja falls. Imam comes, alights from his horse, sits down, takes Muslim's head in his lap. He really cared for each and every one of them. Each one of them who fell. He took his head in his lap. Habib also sat down. He held his hands. And Habib says, you know, Muslim, if I didn't know that I was also going to follow you, I'm coming after you, I would tell you to make a last wasiyah. Give me your last will and testament. But I am going to come after you. But if you have anything to say, and I can do it for you, if you have anything to say in this short time period that I am going to come after you, but if you have anything to say, tell me. And Muslim ibn Awsaja, he says, I have a wasiyah for you. I have my last words for you. Oh Habib, I have a wasiyah for you. Muslim ibn Awsaja, in his last moments of his life, he looked at the faithfulness of the companions of Imam Hussain. He is pointing his hands towards the Imam and he says, Habib, usika bihadha rajul, do not abandon Hussain. Usika bihadha rajul, ya Habib. Do not abandon, do not leave Hussain. What it means, that Habib knew very well. He knew the faithfulness, we know the faithfulness of Habib, and yet the wasiyah, which has been recorded by historians, do not abandon Hussain, as it was a warning to all of us, my brothers and sisters. It's a warning to all of us that in your search for truth, in your search for your faith today, do not abandon Imam Hussain. Do not leave Ahlul Bayt. Ala wa la'natullahi ala al-qawmi al-zalimin. سيعلم الذين ظلموا على محمد أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون اللهم بحق فاطمة زهرة سلام الله عليها وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها والسر المستودع فيها اللهم أدخلنا في كل خير أدخلت فيها محمد وآل محمد يا الله اللهم أخرجنا من كل سوء أخرجت منها محمد وآل محمد. الفاتحة مع الصلوات.